Traffic Jam is on now.
Welcome to another episode of Traffic Jam. I'm your humble correspondent, yours truly, Dr. Dre, and I am very happy to welcome to Traffic Jam not only just a fantastic comedian, not only just one of the, how should I say, humble, funniest guys I've met, but he's also a friend, which makes this interview a lot more fun to do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Talent to Traffic Jam. What's up, Talent?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the room with the doctor, the one and only the doctor. What up, baby?
He's Brooklyn bound. He's Brooklyn bound, ladies and gentlemen, but he started his life out way out on Long Island. What part of Long Island were you from?
Central Islip, Brentwood area. Born in Money Earning, Mount Vernon. Spent a lot of time, lived on the island. Lived a little bit everywhere. People think I'm from Brooklyn. People think I'm from Queens. People think I'm from Jersey. But I claim wholeheartedly the 4 square miles with Heavy D. You know what I mean? And LI, those are 2 home homes.
I'm not mad at you for that. How did you get started in comedy?
I just jumped in, bro. JB Smooth, who you all know, funny man, JB Smooth.
Very
he
funny.
Put me on stage for 3 minutes, and the rest was history.
Get out. So wait a minute, because we used to do a comedy show at Caroline's, Ed and I, for Hot 97, and I had seen you do comedy before, because your famous line used to be, "It's comedy," and I used to crack up when you did that. My thing was, so you were JB put you on, before we got to you then.
Right. 1991 was the year, July 1991. So I'm just celebrating the 31st year in the game. Yeah, that was the very first time. I barely had that 3 minutes.
How has comedy changed for you since 1991?
Oh man, that's a deep question. Comedy has flipped over at least 4 or 5 times and changed up. It went from us. It's funny because I'm working on a documentary now called This Is Comedy, which talks about the transformation of, when we first started, it was Black comedy. So Black comedy came and it was a big movement and it kind of took over the whole kind of comedy industry. And now we are comedy, like the box office people, and the most people you see making any kind of news and headway in comedy are people of color.
Wow. Who were some of your early influences before JB Smooth gave you your 3 minutes?
Man, I was like everybody else at the house, listening to Wax, listening to Red Fox and Moms Mabley and Tommy Brown and Richard Pryor and all those people you wasn't supposed to. Millie Jackson, like they were on Wax, hidden in your grandmother's closet. So I had no choice but to gravitate towards the Red Foxes and the Richard Pryors, who were hilarious to me.
So when Eddie Murphy made his big breakout on Saturday Night Live, did that inspire you to say, maybe I can really make this work?
Well, I mean, Eddie, believe it or not, stand-up wise, Eddie didn't really have any impact on me. I loved Eddie. Eddie had impact on me on TV and film. Stand-up wise, I looked at it, various people when I was a little boy, and I knew I would do it. But the difference is, as a little boy from the outside looking in, I didn't know it was a job. I thought it was a hobby. So I figured whenever I finished doing what I had to do as a job, I would dive into this hobby called comedy. But then Def Jam came, like I said, 89, 90, and changed everything. So now I'm seeing young faces do it. I thought it was for, old man's hobby, or older man's hobby, at least, that when I finished what I really did, I'd dive into it. But when I start seeing people look like me with the hip hop gear and the hat to the back and the Adidas and the sneakers and all, I said, oh, this is for us. And that's when I dove in.
What was your first club that you ever snuck in? Not just the one JB put you on, to see comedy perform, where you could say, this is funny and I can do this?
It had to be the Uptown Comedy Club. The Uptown Comedy Club blew me away. Like I walked into a place and never seen a live audience sitting and enjoying people getting up there doing stand-up comedy. I was blown away. I didn't know it exists like that.
Did you ever feel that in that youthful movement that you guys were just as poignant as the Seinfelds of the world who were doing stand-up comedy?
Oh, always, still do. Like we didn't see Seinfelds they weren't funny to us. That's the funny thing about, to go back to the terminology, black comedy, which would turn into urban comedy, which would turn into comedy. I hate to say it, but most Caucasian comics and Caucasian comedy was corny to us. You know, you know how it is. We grew up a certain way. So
right.
Stuff that they thought was funny and real simple minded, we would just stare at. Like it didn't make us laugh.
Right.
You know what I
So,
mean? And then here comes this black comic talking about some stuff you can relate to. That was funny. I got chased by a dog too. I got bit in the butt too. You know what I mean?
So the Billy Crystals and the Robin Williams, they didn't kind of grab you at all?
That's different. Those are guys those guys are standout and exceptions to the rule of their own race. So that's what I'm saying. Like general comedy of our Caucasian friends was one thing, but then these guys would come along that would defy gravity, so to speak. The Robin Williams, the Jim Carreys, the Carol Burnett's. Like I always say, Carol Burnett to me is, and people get mad at me because I'm a big black guy, but Carol Burnett was my favorite female comedian.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
So in doing this and now having JB giving you, where was that club that you got that first 3 minutes?
It was a bar that had a back part to it, that the back part looked exactly like a comedy club. It was called the Lady I. It was on 241st Street and White Plains Road in the Bronx, which borders Mount Vernon. So it was close to me at the time. And he had gotten the Lady I on Sunday nights, and they gave him the Sunday night. So at 7:30, him and JR, who promoted for the Uptown, those guys would promote this Sunday night thing in it. And they brought up further uptown, those guys from the Uptown. So you got to see Tracy Morgan, you got to see Maceo, Hamburger, Corwin Moore, Robin Fowler, all of these comics who were regulars, Atomic Dog down there. Those guys would come up, and then because all those guys up in North that never went as far as the Harlem or whatever was like, oh my God, what is this? This is great. And that's how we got introduced to it.
Did you find it easier to make people there laugh because your comedy was relatable to where you were from?
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, you were more comfortable, period. Because when you know I always tell people it's like this. It's like going to a job interview. And I have a joke about it, not even knowing that it's synonymous, but when a black man go to a job interview, he's nervous as hell. If he opens that door and they go, okay, they'll see you now, you're next. And you go in there and you see the person interviewing you is going to be a black person, you can't tell me a lot of stress jumped off your shoulder just at that point. Because
you go, ah.
Right. You're like, oh, it's a brother. Okay. And as soon as you get too comfortable, it's a brother, but he got this voice. Hello, good evening. You're like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh man, I'm back to Whiteville. You know what I mean? Like, so it's something about seeing your own kind and makes you a little more comfortable. It's just like neighborhoods. You know, when you go through certain neighborhoods, you're looking for things to make you comfortable. You're looking for soul food. You're looking for the real soul food spot.
Tell me, are you into what goes on now with comedians, with the cancel culture, like what they do with Dave Chappelle? And not really so much with Chris Rock, but how people want to try to cancel him based on his material in comedy?
Well, I mean, I get it. People are using this time and this climate to try to get what they want, at least. But a real comedian, we don't conform to these rules. There's a lot of words, and a lot of phrases, and a lot of things. Oh, that's inappropriate, and we can't say that, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, comedians are the last line of defense of freedom of speech.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, we had a lot of lines along the decades of coming up, from the church to the politicians to the counselors to the lawyers, to all these people, and they've all letting us down. And trying to rewrite the rules along the way. Comedy and comedians, real true stand-ups, are the last defense of defending your freedom of speech. So I can't conform, even though I can respect what you're saying, I can understand what you're saying. I don't just write my material or perform according to what I think is going to make people feel good.
So what makes you create your material, your subject matter? Some people are heavy into women and sexuality. Some people are into politics. Some people are into just going out there as a comedian and snapping back and forth with the audience. What's Talent's thing that when he walks on a stage that you like to focus on?
I think the only thing I would hang my hat on is relatability. I think I've studied comedy long enough to know that relatability is that thing that's going to get you the biggest laugh, and you want to relate as much as you can. So I hate to say it, but I don't write per se because I've been called to do this. I'm a natural. People who are, there's comics and there's comedians. I hang my hat on being a comedian. A comic is a person who can learn this. They can learn to do this and get on stage for 10, 15, 20 minutes and tell things that they wrote down in a certain way and get laughs. And then there's these comedians who are more natural. We're going to be called to do more different type of things. And, what gets the biggest laughs. If I can relate, talking in factual truth, then there's going to be people out there that have been through exactly what I'm talking about because it really happened. I just need a way to tell it and convey it to the audience. So, oh, yeah. And once, that's what big laughs is. Big laughs translation is, oh, yeah, I know what that is. I know it. Either I've been through it or my friend been through it. Or I'm going through it now. Or, that's what relatability is. So that's me. That's what I hang my hat on, being a natural comedian called to do this.
So you would be more of what I call the storytelling comedian. It's not just about trying to get a quick chuckle. You try to get a story out that makes you think, laugh, and order another drink when you're at the club.
Right. Well, when you're natural, you're multifaceted, meaning I can snap with the best of them. I can say the quick liners with the best of them. I can tell the stories with the best of them. Every show's like a snowflake. I don't know where I'm gonna go with it. Like I let the audience that night, that show, dictate it. I don't let the last show dictate it. I don't let tomorrow's show dictate. I don't let the show earlier today because each one is like a snowflake. Each audience is different. There's no such thing as a professional audience. You are the constant professional.
Is that what makes it unique to you? Because every time you have to get on the stage, it's a different experience?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what keeps it fresh. I wouldn't be on here talking to you today, 31 years in this with the same hypeness and vigor for the game if it was stale or it became monotonous, because we get tired of anything unless it keeps changing on us. The only reason we still watch sports like football and NBA season after season is because every season is different. Yeah, they won last season, but who's gonna win this season?
Hey, it's Michael Callier, and you're watching The Traffic Jam. Hit the brakes.
Did you hear about that gentleman from OKC who pretty much broke his ankles because he was guarding LeBron in a preseason game?
Yeah,
he's out for the season. I forget his name right now.
I know who you're talking about. He was the number 2 draft pick this year. That was asinine. And now, because he was the number 2 draft pick and it happened, now they're reevaluating the rules because they're saying over here, if you're on any NBA team, maybe we shouldn't allow you to play any of those pickup games, where in every other country they're allowed to do that.
Right. So let me ask you a serious political question. What do you think about the Britney Griner WNBA superstar who is stuck in Russia right now? What do you think about her case and us trying to get her released because she was caught bringing vaping cartridges to Russia? She's been doing it for years, but this time they caught her. What do you think about her sentencing?
Well, first of all, somebody dropped down. Anything you've been doing for years, and then all of a sudden you get caught, somebody snitched in it. But here's the thing. She, God is our witness. Okay, she's guilty. This is something she did. You should know better. And, I mean, is the punishment a little harsh to me? Absolutely. But you should know better in the country you're dealing with and the time you're dealing with said country. That country's at war right now. And America's not on the side of them. So you got to know, being an American, that if something comes up, if something happens, if you're apprehended, they're going to make a super example during this wartime, because your country's the #1 country for the other side. And we got our own personal beef with Russia and stuff like that. Is it excessive? Again, yes. Is she wrong? Is she caught? Yes. Is she guilty? Absolutely, yes. But I just think
but the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
no way possible. But again, that's in our
But that's the
eyes.
politics.
That's in our eyes, and that's their country. And on top of that, Doc, understand this too. On top of that, us Americans, and we've been guilty of this because you and I have traveled and done events together abroad and everything. We've been guilty of what I call we talk about privilege over here. We have white privilege in us as Americans. When we travel to different countries, we move real American and think that everything's going to fall like it falls back home. We have to learn to respect these boundaries and borders of others. This is not our country.
So speaking of you traveling and doing your comedy, how many places have you been? And do you also perform in front of full white audiences?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I do it all. I'll be honest with you. At this stage of the game, if you do 30 years and you can't do it all, you kind of boxed yourself in, cornered yourself in, or pretty much wasted a lot of time. You have to learn to do it all. I do it. 1 minute I'll be in, like last night, I'll be in the club with 60 hookahs around me. And then the next morning, I'm in the church doing a clean church show. I mean, that's what I mean by being called to do it and being blessed. You have to learn a way and have the material and the ability to rock anything. Sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's elders, sometimes it's recovery, sometimes it's concert tour, sometimes it's intimate. In a couple of weeks, I'll be on the golf course hosting John Stock's his scholarship program, and $1 billion will be in that room.
In New York.
Yeah, $1 billion will be in that room. There'll be a lot of rich, corporate, Caucasian folks, as long with every color and ethnic background of an athlete will be there. Everybody, every Hall of Famer, like all these people will be there.
Does that make you adjust your material for that performance?
Yes, I mean you do. It's called like customizing your talents. So
speaking of talents,
you customize your talents. Like if somebody calls me, hey, come down to Job Corps, can you do a set and talk to the kids? Then I'm going to customize it to talk to these kids and stuff that they can relate to. When I go to John Stark's thing, I talk in a way that they can relate to and talk about their business and raise as much money as possible for John Stark's Foundation. And if I'm in the club and it's no holds bar, I let it all hang out, so to speak.
Yo, what up? It's your boy, Aries Spears. Or maybe it's Paul Mooney, nigga. You are watching The Traffic Jam. Keep it locked. Like slavery and niggas, you're not going anywhere. Keep it locked.
So tell me, I understand Angela Yee from The Breakfast Club is leaving the show to start her own program. What do you think about that?
I'm not mad at that. I mean, good for her. I always like progress and growth. I do like that. I think that we should always be working. Like you rent an apartment for so long before, and eventually you should be buying your own. So she's going out investing in herself. So I get that. Like I just left the comedy festival in Martha's Vineyard, and the guy who runs it, I remember the year before, the theater that closed down because of COVID, he couldn't use last year. So he said this driving around. He was like, man, I'm gonna check into that theater, man, and see what's going on, because I might need to buy it. So I go back this year, a year later exactly, and the man now owns the theater. And I was just like, that just warmed my heart to see that kind of progress, that he went from the guy that rented in the theater from the guy who was already had the lease and the ownership. And because that guy didn't open back up after COVID, he did his due diligence. He went in there. Now he owns the theater where he produces his comedy festival every August, every month of August for every year for the last 11 years, going on 12 years. It's crazy. So I mean, good luck to her. I like Angela Lee. She's a good, kind person. So good luck to her. I mean, I hope it works for her.
Have you been on The Breakfast Club before?
Oh, several times. Pretty cool with everybody on there. You know what I mean? Shout out to the God. Shout out to Envy. You already know Envy goes back.
I know them all. I know them all, believe it or not. I've been doing this a couple of weeks.
Yeah. But see, with me, personally, envying myself the little 12 years I put in over across the street, like we like to say, in the Kiss FM days. Me and this guy for 10 years seen each other every morning coming and going to work. Either he was working the shift after mine, the same shift, or the shift before. Either way, we always cross paths on a daily basis. So me, his family, his wife, and everybody, you know, we have a bond and a history right there. So I love the show. And if she feel like she's gonna go branch out and do more, can't be mad at that. I mean, look at Wendy.
Not at all.
Look how far Wendy took it.
Everybody's seed gotta grow. Everybody's seed. So speaking of that, 31 years deep for yourself.
Yes, sir.
Has comedy been a good financial thing for you, or is it still just a hobby? Which way do you look at it?
I mean, it didn't take long for me to realize that this was an occupation and make the most out of it. Dre, I got 6 kids, man. 5 have had the opportunity to go through college.
6? Wait, hold it. Did you say 6?
I have an organic Brady bunch. I have 3 boys and 3 girls.
Okay, good for you. Good for you.
And if you factor in my 5 pit bulls at the house, that's 11 kids.
Well, well, do the kids think dad's funny?
Man, the kids know dad's funny. The public don't let them forget it. If they're out with me, like just 2 days ago, me and my 2 youngest are at the movies in New Rock City, and just looking at people, how they approach you and talk to you and give you your flowers, so to speak, and all that. They've had that for over a decade and a half, so they kind of know what that is. And to the point, my oldest son, he's almost 4 years in stand-up comedy himself now. Talent Junior, or Young Talent as we call him, is amazing on stage. He's better than I was at 4 years.
Well, I mean, look, the limb don't fall far from the tree, my friend. That's called a great blessing. And I can say that because I have a son that's a musician, and I sit with my jaw and my mouth open every time I go watch him perform. It's a blessing.
It's amazing, man.
It's just a blessing.
You know what I look at?
Blessings.
I would look at it is like, look at LeBron James, what he's saying in all his interviews right now. He's trying to preserve himself and hang in there so he can play with his son coming to the league. My son's already in the league.
There you go. And he's got time behind it. What hasn't talent done that talent wants to do?
I'm in the beginning stages of one of my big dreams is to own a chain of comedy clubs. I've gotten as far as, I got 2 clubs upstate New York, Rochester and Buffalo. It's just comedy club. But I really would love if I can get, in the perfect world, if I can get up to, 7 to 10 clubs in different cities, 7 different cities or 10 different cities. It's just comedy club, just like, and the name becomes household, like the Improv or the Funny Bone or Helium. All of those comedy clubs that are out there they're just household names in their regions. And if I could have It's Just Comedy Club cafe in Charlotte and you know what I'm saying, and Florida and Tampa with my brother, or Orlando, DC and Virginia and Philly and Boston and Connecticut, then I'm doing it.
That's a great dream. I would love to come and just sit in the audience so I got a good place to laugh.
If I could pull that off, man, that would be the ultimate dream for me. Because before that, I guess my biggest thing was, I know I'm funny. The audience knows I'm funny when I'm up there, but I need to rest assure myself, my peers, no matter how rich or poor, or how big or small and everything in between, they need to recognize how funny I am. And I will say, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, and a bunch of those guys, Tommy Davidson, and a bunch of them guys have uttered the name talent in the greatest way. So that part, I feel like I've achieved that. Between people being scared to be on the show with me to talking about me in their own personal interviews, that's a blessing. So that one thing that I want to do that I haven't done is what I told you, chain of comedy clubs.
Well, out of all my years being involved in entertainment, performing, you've been in every major comedy show that we did.
That's a fact.
It's not only been a blessing to have you there to grace us with your great comedic talent, but the blessing was to get to know you as a person and to call you friend. And I don't use the friend word often with a lot of people. So I'm just thankful. And when those other places open, I'm gonna treat it like any other fast food restaurant. I'm gonna go get my comedy and sit down
I
and
want you to
grab my
treat it
drink.
like home, Drake. I want you to treat it like home. I just want you to treat it like home.
There it is. There it is. And that's that's why I do traffic jams. And we want to thank Talent for taking some time out and spending with us here. And we got to get you back for a part 2. Yours truly, Dr. Dre, with the great and the amazing and the wonderful. I'm really pumping it now. Talent.
Yo, thank you very much, man. I will be calling on you for that documentary too, because you guys are a huge part in that transition. It's your boy Talent. Don't take none of it personal. It's just comedy. Talent the comedian on Instagram. Let's go.
The Traffic Jam is on now.